And so what I wanted to share with you about is what I might call, at least for tonight, I might call soul identity. And after the big shift that had experienced on the heels of the inquiry, what is stillness, I think that I really just couldn't relate to the word soul. There was some sense that the energy had swung so far from this localization into a sense of a whole that somehow my body energetics and my mind sensed was more boundless, that I just couldn't really organize very well around localization. It's not that I didn't feel things deeply in my heart. I mean, that was more available to me than ever. But just as far as like a sense of central someone, it just wasn't really computing. So as things unfolded in my case, it took me many years to sort of feel a sense of central self that felt authentic, that wasn't based in the me identity, that wasn't based in history, that wasn't based in the push and pull of desires and resistance. But it was all there in the seed of that moment where I was asking what is stillness, and my consciousness was more inward. It all was in the seed of that moment where the questioner laid itself down, and the intelligence of life, or we could say the intelligence inherent in the question that had its own destiny, you could say, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but its own trajectory that pointed the awareness of this instrument to the surroundings of the creek and crickets, etc. That intelligence seems to have a seat in us. And we could call that seat of intelligence our soul. And sometimes that seat feels like it's been grown into the whole of the manifest world. And don't take this like to concretize in that way. It may not ever feel like that. It's not important. But the point I'm trying to make is sometimes we can't find a place in ourselves. There's just, we can't sense any core of essence, of intelligence, of life. Sometimes it's really available. I remember growing up when they would say God is within. I would just really try and tune deeply into the core. Sometimes it would feel like it was in my heart. Or sometimes it would felt like it was almost like this just general area of core, like something that felt deeper. And somehow just that sense of depth, whatever you want to call it, just seemed like it had life to it, that it wasn't just like an inert emptiness. But it was something to attune to. And that attunement was an offering of my attention, you could say, a sharing of my personal consciousness with that depth that brought it into greater consciousness. It was like this dance of listening within, and it's like a call and response that then that can elicit an inner life. It can develop an inner life that responds. And it can, take the shape of intuitions or, still small voice, or leanings or inclinations, or things that light you up, or things that maybe echo in your consciousness of, nuh-uh, that doesn't feel right, or that's off. Did I say echo in your consciousness? I meant echo in your conscience, if I didn't say that correctly. So this notion of like this soul identity, this very, I don't know if condensed is the right word, but it's almost like a gathering of that intelligence in a very unique imprint that's just for you. And that soul intelligence is this that might express in a very quiet atmosphere. And it might feel like the peace in one's soul, or it might, manifest as a kind of brightness, a kind of spark. Like when we say something speaks to our soul, it's those are the things that light us up from the inside, from the core. And so it might be a brightness. But that sense of soul identity, it doesn't have the kind of identity as the me or the ego that concretizes. But it does seem to localize and be very unique. I remember once I was speaking to Tammy Simon, who some of you may know as the founder, and possibly, I believe her role is still the president of Sounds True, a publishing company that puts on lots of courses and puts out lots of recordings and in some cases books. And a lot of them are along the lines of spirituality and self-growth. And one day I was speaking to her and she said to me, how in your experience does your feeling about Yogananda being your guru and Adya being your teacher, how are they different? And it was just this fantastic question I'd never really been asked to form in a very, specific way. And I said, well, let me sit with that and I'll get back to you. And we were together for a lunch. And by the time the lunch finished, I said, I have an answer for you. And I said, Yogananda has been the guardian of my soul, and Adya has been the liberator of my soul. And that just felt so true. And sometimes there's words that come from beyond our mind. You feel something, like you listen to someone very intimately, and what they're saying washes into you, and something responds. But it doesn't respond to the part of your mind that's like tracking every detail of what they said. It's like more of a call and response of the essence of their words that washes into you, and it hits the essence in you, and that essence responds in some words that are often fresh and surprising to the thinking mind that couldn't have come up with them. And that was kind of how this response came for Tammy. It came a little bit before I actually said it, but when it came, I knew it came from a wisdom that had traveled some journeys with Yogananda and Adya in a way that could speak to those journeys in ways that my thinking mind could never have really ever journeyed.